Over the last few years, I have used several ESP development boards for different projects. From this ESP32-6601 in 2015 for this wall socket humidity and temperature sensor to this IoT logistics solution using a LilyGo T-Sim700G. One thing was the same. I used already existing boards on the market. While one board will have a display or onboard sensor, it will lack in power optimization or some really valuable feature I need for my solution. So I decided to take a closer look at the ESP32 line of chips and make a custom board of my own. I named it Delali Sense 32. Designing this board was also an attempt to force myself to grow as an engineer, especially in areas like radio communication, multi-layer PCB design, power optimization, and deepen my understanding of electronics in general. This is what Delali Sense 32 looks like up close. All components are surface mounted aside the jumper headers and USB-C port. It's also about 45mm in width and height with bevel edges to prevent injuries when handling. It is also a 4-layer PCB. Instead of looking at the board, let's break down the schematic and understand the components and the decision behind them. At the heart of the board is the ESP32-S3 FN8. I chose this variant because it has built-in 8MB flash memory, which simplifies the design and keeps the board compact while still giving me Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and native USB. So I don't need a dedicated FTDI chip like most ESP32 boards on the market. Note that a lot of the basic components selected for the design are according to the hardware guide document of the ESP32. So I only made changes where I see fit as I went along with the design. I used two crystal oscillators on this board. The 32.768 kHz oscillator improves the accuracy of the real-time clock, especially during deep sleep, which is useful for low power applications. The 40 MHz on the other hand provides the main clock for the ESP32. If we look up here, we can see two buttons. The boot button puts the ESP32 in programming mode, so you can upload some sketch to it. The reset button does as its name implies. It resets the ESP32, so you can think of it as a restart button. These are filtering circuits made up of decoupling capacitors and inductors that are placed close to the ESP32 chip itself. They help to suppress high frequency noise and maintain stable supply voltage during rapid current spikes caused by Wi-Fi or Bluetooth activities. This is the female Type-C USB connector. I added these 5.1 kilo ohm resistors on the CC1 and CC2 lines to indicate this board is a power sink as per the USB-C standard. In simple terms, these resistors being here lets any device this board is connected to know that it requires 5 volts power. There is also a 1.5 amp resettable fuse on the 5 volts power line and an ESD protection device to protect the board from electrostatic discharge, especially on exposed connectors like the USB. This IC handles both battery charging and power path management for the board. It charges any connected lithium-ion or lithium polymer battery and automatically switches between USB and battery power. The value of resistor R6 sets the battery charging current, which is currently configured to 0.8 amps or 800 milliamps. There is also a current limit switch on the board. When using the Delali Sense 32 with a computer port, the switch should be set to the 500 mA USB mode to remain within the current limit supported by mini USB ports. When the board is deployed in a standalone setup or connected to a suitable wall adapter, the switch can then be moved to the 1.4 amps position to allow higher current draw for a more demanding application. There is also a red LED that indicates when the battery is charging and a green one to indicate when the IC has a stable power source. Because low power consumption was one of the requirements for the design of this board, I used a dual regulator approach. This regulator is for the ESP32-S3 chip itself, and this other one is for all peripherals and sensors attached to the board. The ESP32 is also able to turn this regulator on and off using this enable line. This means that when sensors or peripherals are not in use, they can be completely turned off to save power. According to the ESP32 hardware design document, the chip should be supplied no less than 3.3 volts at 500 milliamps. That is why I chose the RT9080 3.3 volts regulator. Also because this regulator has a low quiescent current of 2 microamps, which is really good for a board that would be battery powered. To avoid overloading the ESP32 GPIOs and ensure reliable operation, I chose to drive this passive buzzer, which can draw up to 90 milliamps through an N-channel MOSFET. This allows the ESP32 GPIO to only supply a small control current while the MOSFET handles the higher current required by the buzzer. When working on battery powered projects, keeping track of battery status is important. Since the battery voltage alone can be misleading, I included a battery fuel gauge IC to produce a more accurate estimate of the remaining battery level. It also includes an alert pin that can notify the ESP32 when the battery reaches a critically low level. Since environmental sensing is common in IoT projects, I included the BME280 sensor for measuring temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure. It communicates with the ESP32 over I2C just like the battery monitoring IC, and they both can be turned off completely because they are powered by the second regulator. I also added PCB pads to allow users to set the I2C address of the BME280 sensor. So by bridging these two pads, it results in a 0x76, which is the widely used one, and then by bridging these other two, you get 0x77. When working on IoT projects, having quick visual feedback can be very useful, so I included an addressable RGB LED to indicate things like power, Wi-Fi status, error, or battery level at a glance. I also exposed the RGB signal out line to allow expansion with a compatible RGB strip. For the antenna, I went with this 50 ohm PCB trace antenna with the specification from Texas Instruments. This is the common antenna we see on most development boards. It's also recommended for use in space-constrained designs. The PCB antenna is specified as 50 ohm, and the RF trace was designed to target a 50 ohm transmission line. However, in the end, the actual impedance depends on the PCB stack-up, trace width, ground clearance, copper thickness, and manufacturing tolerances. So I included a small CLC matching network to give me some room for tuning after testing. To figure out the values I need for my CLC network, I used this website over here. So I first started with this impedance matching website, and these were the values that were recommended. I put this into the Smith chart, and back then I used this old version of the website, so I wasn't able to tweak these numbers very well. Apparently this dot over here is supposed to end in the middle here, which would be matched for 50 ohm, but I could not tweak it to the point where it matched for 50 ohm, so I settled for the closest I could get at the time. Now there is a new website that looks like this, so if I input these values over here into that website, this is what the Smith chart looks like. So apparently this dot here is supposed to go into the middle here to be 50, right? And now you can slide these bars to change the characteristics of the image you see. And so this is what I went with, the 3.12 nanohenry inductor value and then 3.1 picofarad capacitor. And I realized now while filming this video that when I tweak this all the way by 20% and tweak this also by 20% and then increase this just a tad little bit, it actually comes to the center. But at the time when I designed the board, it did not have this sliding feature, so I could not try this because I had to enter figures manually, and that was a bit stressful. So eventually I settled for what came close, which is what I showed earlier. So that means that in the next design I would have to probably use 3.72 picofarad capacitor versus another 3.72 and then a 2.04, if that is a thing that exists as the standard inductor. If you have some knowledge about radio communication and things like this, please let me know what would be the best approach, or if this is actually a good approach to use, or let me know your thoughts in general. For the ports that allow connection to the board, I chose this quick connector because it provides a plug and play approach to connecting sensors. It also enables daisy chaining of sensors and peripherals, so no need for manual wiring of SDA, SCL, power and ground lines. For the battery port, I went with this right-angled JST PH 2.0 port because it's the commonly used way of connecting batteries to development boards. Based on the number of pins that were available from the ESP32 to be exposed to the user, I decided to go with a header that matched that, so 10 pins on the left side and 10 pins on the right side. So these are the male pin headers. In the next video, I'll be following this testing sheet to test the features and functionalities of Delali Sense 32. To see that video when it drops, kindly subscribe. Please give us a like to show your support for this channel. See you in the next one.